This weekend, Ice Rider really said, double it and give it to the next person. Ice Rider Calyrex swarmed the San Antonio Regionals this past weekend, and we're going to deep dive into how exactly each team did, as well as talking about the most used Pokemon of the event. But let's look at the top 8 teams that came through in the past weekend, and we're going to start things off, ironically enough, with Ice Rider Calyrex. It's pretty much your standard Ice Rider Calyrex with the clear amulet, with the Terra Fire. This is pretty much the standard of what you see with Ice Rider. It's either Terra Fire or Terra Water, depending on how you want to play it. Both sides are really good, especially for the mirror matchup. Water more so, because then you stay clear of the high horsepower in the mirror matchup, but it's still completely fine as well. Calyrex Ice has been a dominant force of nature, and we are going to be touching on Calyrex Ice Rider a lot in this video as well. Of course, we have the Glacial Lance. I don't see anybody not using Glacial Lance for Ice Rider Calyrex. It's pretty much standard. Close combat is a very new one. Normally you see high horsepower, that way ice and ground, you kind of transpire all of your terrors, especially when you go into Terra Water and or Fire, which is quite nice. Obviously Trick Room and Protect to keep yourself safe. The close combat was definitely something new, which I was not expecting, but I guess for hitting top 8, it did very well. I did not see a match with this team, but considering again, like, it got top 8, close combat must have helped it pretty nicely as well, so I'm not surprised. This was a very nice team to pull off. Ice Rider Calyrex is just dominating the format right now, honestly. We have the Boost Energy Raging Bolt, I'm assuming to boost up its special attack, because that is the only thing that Raging Bolt would love to boost up here. Thunderbolt, Thunderclap, Draco Meteor, and Protect. Again, like we touched on the last regionals that we went on with the Raging Bolt, is pretty much the same standard stuff. You either got Draco Meteor or Dragon Pulse, one of the two, both of which is both a good answer for what you want that dragon slot to be, as well as the Terra Electric, a full-on aggressive Raging Bolt. Again, nothing bad about that. Raging Bolt going on the aggressive is definitely something that you want to look into. I personally cannot make up a team without using Raging Bolt, so I love this Pokemon. This Pokemon is one of my favorites, honestly. Obviously, we have the Amoonguss as well. Amoonguss being one of the only Pokemon, I think, outside of Torkoal, that is the only Pokemon that can outspeed Ice Rider Calyrex inside of Trick Room. That's pretty much relevant in the format. Going into Terra Water as well, that way you're also clear of Ice Rider Calyrex in any mirror matchups or just Ice Riders in general. Pollen Puff in Trick Room, Spore, Rage Powder, Protect. Like we said as well in the last regionals, that Pollen Puff is pretty much that move there when you're inside of Trick Room. When you have a Trick Room team, normally you see Pollen Puff on the Amoonguss because you get your HP back to Ice Rider Calyrex before even Ice Rider has a chance to hit you with any said move, which is quite nice as well, especially in the mirror matchup where you are like 1 hit away. Pollen Puff makes it so you'd be 2, maybe 3 hits away, you never know. Then we have the Farigiraf with the safety goggles, that way it doesn't fall asleep to any opposing Amoonguss if it wants to set up a Trick Room as well. Going into Terra Water, again, to help with the mirror matchup on other Ice Rider Calyrexes, as well as Urshifu as well. Foul Play, Psychic Noise, Helping Hand, and Trick Room. Again, a very nice play to give here. Farigiraf as well, also coming back in the format. It's nice to see Farigiraf back. I really do like Farigiraf. I think it's a nice Pokemon as well. The Chien-Pao with the Focus Sash, Terra Ghost, Ice Spinner, Sacred Sword, Sucker Punch, Protect. Same standard stuff with the Chien-Pao. Normally you'd see things like a Throat Chop, or you'd see Icicle Spear. I honestly go for a more Ice Spinner set, because obviously you're not running terrains in here, so you can kind of go all out and get rid of terrains whenever you so please. Again, like me personally, I think this is a great idea. I would rather take Ice Spinner over Icicle Crash, but that's just my opinion as well. I'm not the biggest terrain user, but again, that's just me. Sacred Sword as well is great because that helps you steer clear of things like Zamazenta, because it just doesn't care about any defense stat increases, which is quite nice. Sucker Punch is standard, and then obviously Protect. And then finally we have the Rapid Strike Urshifu with the Choice Scarf and the Terra Grass to stay clear of both Raging Bolt and Rillaboom, its 2 biggest threats arguably, with Surging Strikes, Close Combat, U-Turn, and Coaching as well. This way with Coaching, if Ice Rider was to do a Close Combat, the only thing you are slacking on there is the special attack, or the special defense, sorry. But Coaching helps you get back your physical defense as well as getting a nice little bit of attack as well at the same time, which is quite nice. Next up, we have a team consisting of Groudon. Now, this is really huge, and yeah, Groudon has been doing absolutely amazing. This top 8 cut as well, whether it's Ice Rider Calyrex or Sun teams, the Ballad of Ice and Fire is just so crazy in this regional. It was absolutely insane. But we do have the Incineroar to start things off with the safety goggles. Safety goggles and Incineroar go hand in hand here. If it's not like Assault Vest, if you don't have Rillaboom or anything like Citrus Berry or anything like that, safety goggles is pretty much the go-to for Incineroar here. Going into the Terra Water, normally you see Terra Ghost to stay clear of other Incineroar, as well as other Rillaboom that want to shoot out Fake Out or fighting types in general, which is, you know, Incineroar's worst nightmare here. But Terra Water is also quite nice as well. We have Knockoff, Will-O-Wisp, Parting Shot, and Fake Out. Of course you would, because Incineroar just goes absolutely ham, and because you have other fire types here, which we will get to in a second. Incineroar doesn't really need to use up a slot for Flare Blitz, which makes Will-O-Wisp the nice go-to there. More supportive, more of a tank. Incineroar is just absolutely amazing. Next up is the Groudon with the Clear Amulet and the Terrafire, which is why I said fire types, because most likely Groudon would love to go into that Terrafire. That way it stays clear of any grass types that want to threaten it, like Rillaboom, or any ice types like Chien-Pao, which is, you know, obviously the thing you want to stay away from. You obviously have Drought, which obviously gets the Sun Up, which is quite nice. Precipitous Blades, Heat Crash, Stomping Tantrum, and Protect. Standard stuff for a Groudon, can't really complain. But Jumpluff, this has been an amazing Techmon. I heard that this was like an amazing one to put in with Groudon now, considering that we also got this with Regulation H with Torkoal and Jumpluff as well. And Jumpluff was just an absolute demon on the field to get rid of. Like, you could not get rid of this thing. This thing was stupidly fast to get rid of. It was absolutely insane. We also have the Covert Cloak as well to steer clear of any fake outs, so that way you can just keep going with the support straight out of the gate. And the Terra Dark to steer clear of any prankster Pokemon as well that want to throw out taunts or encores. It just completely rides it, and it really doesn't care. This whole thing is to make sure that your opponent cannot do anything. If you want speed, you've got speed. If you want, you know, encore, you've got encore. If you want them to go to sleep, you have sleep powder. If you want them to redirect, you have rage powder. This thing is made to be an annoying menace at all times, and it really does show. Jumpluff has been absolutely amazing. I think Jumpluff on the Sun team now is pretty much essential, just of one, how fast it can be, and two, how annoying it can be. This thing can't be touched. It's absolutely insane. We also have the Half Flame Ogerpon as well to get boosted from that sun that Groudon likes to emit. The Ivy Cudgel, Wood Hammer, Follow Me, and the Spiky Shield. Again, standard stuff that you'd see from an Ogerpon. Can't really complain. It's pretty much your standard set for an Ogerpon. Nothing really much else to go about it. We got Raging Bolt with the Assault Vest and the Photosynthesis to take advantage of that sun as well to get that special attacking boost. And the Assault Vest just makes sure that we got a little extra bit of buffness there. Because again, with the Photosynthesis, we have that Bolt, so we don't need to get the Life Orb, we don't need to do the booster energy, we just have Assault Vest straight out of the gate. And Raging Bolt just hits hard out of the gate anyway, so even if you wasn't going to do that and you're not running Sun, Assault Vest is still a very good move to go for anyway. Thunderbolt, Draco Meteor, Thunderclap, and Electro Web. Sometimes you'd see Snarl, but in this case we are running with the Electro Web to make sure our team runs a little bit faster than our opponents, which is quite nice as well. And finally, we have the single strike Urshifu, not rapid strike, because of course with the surging strikes in the sun, it would obviously get nerfed a little bit. So we're going with the other sense of Urshifu. That way we still make use of the Unseen Fist ability. We still make use of its blitzing strength. It's just an absolutely amazing Pokemon as well. Going into Terra Dark, Wicked Blow, Close Combat, Sucker Punch, and Detect. This thing is an absolute brute force of nature. Personally, I used to go for a choice banded Urshifu, and just seeing that Wicked Blow just delete everybody's HP bar just felt so satisfying. But that's just me experimenting with stuff, and maybe we'll see it in the future, who knows. But until then, single strike Urshifu as well hits just like a freaking truck. Next up, we are running into the top 4 with the Koraidon team made by Andrew Figuera. And this as well is also quite interesting. Normally, again, with Koraidon, you would see a clear amulet, much like Groudon, much like Ice Rider, because of Incineroar being intimidating all of these physical attackers. It's quite, you know, obviously a strange thing to go about. This is more so for the Dragonite Scale Shock tech that we've been seeing a lot in Regulation H, where, you know, Dragonite would obviously get 4 or 5 hits with the Scale Shot. Defense would go down, yeah, sure, but then all of a sudden it would just boost up in its speed, and that way you've just got this absolutely crazy fast tank that can just go through things with the sun, with its Oraki Impulse ability as well, and it's just absolutely insane. And that way you're not stuck, you don't feel like you're stuck in a sense, and you could just absolutely go for it. This thing is absolutely amazing. Collision Course, Flare Blitz, and Protect as well to keep it safe. And the Terrafire, because of course you want to run that Terrafire as well, which is obviously just quite a nice thing to deal with. We have Umbreon as a nice support Pokemon with the safety goggles. That way it doesn't stay clear from Amoonguss with the Rage Powder or the Spores. Going into the Terra Poison to stay clear of Fairy types like Fluttermane. We also have the Foul Play to hit any physical attackers, or in this case, Calyrex as well. Both forms of Calyrex don't like Foul Play. We have Taunt, Yawn, and Moonlight to keep it safe as well. We have the Raging Bolt with Assault Vest, like we said before, Thunderclap, Thunderbolt, Draco Meteor, and Volt Switch this time, not Electro Web or Snarl this time. Going into Terra Fairy, so this one seems like it's a more defensive Raging Bolt, which again, quite nice. You either run the Terra Electric for offense or you run the Terra Fairy for defense. Both of them Raging Bolt absolutely loves, so it is a very nice thing to go for here. We have the Fluttermane with the Focus Sash, pretty nice here. It seems like it's going to be more of an aggressive mon here with the Icy Wind, the Dazzling Gleam, and the Moonblast, as well as the Protect as well to keep itself safe, and the Terra Fairy as well. So again, a very aggressive Fluttermane, a very harsh hitting Fluttermane as well. This thing will absolutely punish you if you don't keep this thing in check, especially with that Focus Sash as well, forcing you to hit it twice. which is absolutely amazing. We have the Cornerstone Ogerpon with Ivy Cudgel, Power Whip, Follow Me, Spiky Shield. Again, pretty much standard set for an Ogerpon. It's either Power Whip, Wood Hammer, or Horn Leech. Those are the 3 grass moves that you see. Ivy Cudgel was a given whatever mask it has. So in this case, it will obviously be Rock. And the other 2 are just pretty much standard for Ogerpon. There's nothing really much else you can do there. And the Choice Band Entei with the Inner Focus, meaning it doesn't get hit by Intimidate. It doesn't get hit by Fake Out. So this thing can just do absolutely crazy damage straight out of the gate with the Terra Normal as well. Sacred Fire, Extreme Speed, Stomping Tantrum, and Stone Edge. Again, pretty much standard stuff that you see for an Entei, but it's nice to see Entei hit the top 8, specifically the top 4, which I am really, really happy about. I think Entei is just an absolutely great Pokemon. I'm trying to get Entei in Sword and Shield because it's the fastest way that I know I can get Entei in Sword and Shield, and oh my god, it's taking forever. Like, I really want to use Entei. I really want to be able to have the ability to use Entei, but my god, it's so long. Now, this team caught my eye. This is the highlight of my weekend. This is a stalling team with Shadow Rider Calyrex done by Dawei Sai, and this was absolutely insane. I've faced this whole stalling mechanic of Dozo Ting-Lu in ladder before, and it is really hard to get rid of. So of course you have the Dondozo with the Leftovers and the Oblivious as well, meaning that it can't be taunted and it is immune to Intimidate as well, which is obviously nice. The Terra Dragon kind of fits here because again, you stay clear from all the elemental moves like Electric, like Grass, all the moves that Dondozo doesn't like to get hit by. You have Protect to keep yourself safe, obviously, Wave Crash, Yawn, and then you have just Fissure just as like the big red button where if things are really, really going wrong and you know you're going to go down in the next turn, you might as well just hit the big red button. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then you're going down anyway. It's just like a big kind of self-destruct button where it's like, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to make sure you try and go down with me, which is, you know, I can't hate it. I can't hate it. It's quite okay. It's a quite okay move, to be quite honest with you. And then its partner in this is Ting-Lu. So realistically, the way that this goes around is that with Ting-Lu's Vessels of Ruin ability, lowering special attack, Dondozo has the ability to kind of stay in for longer because it's obviously got more of a physical defensive stat and its HP is just absolutely massive. So realistically, you would set these Yawns and you would just kind of do damage over time. Ting-Lu can also get through with a Sand Tomb, keeping you trapped, meaning that you can't switch out of the sleep, meaning you just have to kind of sit there and take it. You have the Ruination as well to cut your HP in half every single time. So you add that Ruination, you add that Sand Tomb, and then you put in Stealth Rocks on top of that, including being asleep and not being able to leave. You're just going to get chipped away little by little by little. And because you have that Oblivious on Dondozo, you can't get taunted. It doesn't matter if you're Prankster Taunt, it doesn't matter if you're not Prankster Taunt. You can't get taunted, which means Dondozo can keep going for these Yawns, forcing you to be asleep, and Ting-Lu can just keep setting these Sand Tombs, keeping you trapped. It is a very, very hard strategy to get out of, and you need to work very, very strategically in order to get out of this situation. And even if you did, you've still got all of these guys to deal with. You have the Life Orb Shadow Rider Calyrex, an absolutely brute force of nature with Protect, Astral Barrage, Psychic, and Substitute, with the Terra Dark as well to stay clear of other dark types. You have the Ogerpon Half Flame with the Spiky Shield, Ivy Cudgel, Follow Me, and Horn Leech. You have the Single Strike Urshifu with the Focus Sash as well, meaning you have to hit this thing twice. And then you also have the Whimsicott that has the Covert Cloak, meaning you can't do Fake Out. You've got the Terra Normal there, as well as having things like Encore and Helping Hand as well, and the Tailwind. So even if you was to get rid of this stall early on, you still have to kind of keep it in play and get rid of 2 of these 4. It's a very, very tough strategy. It is very, very harsh to get rid of, but you know what? Hitting top 4, very, very amazing here. I would probably see stalling tactics going up a bit more because these 2 put together is really tough to get rid of. Putting these 2 together is really, really tough to get rid of. And you know what? Like, absolute congratulations to Dawei. Like, they popped off. It was an absolute pop off. But now we are at the final 2. And I say the final 2 specifically because it's exactly the same team. The Tang Gang, both Shi Liang and Justin Tang, both got 2nd place and 1st place respectively. These guys absolutely popped off and they are exactly the same team. It is absolutely insane to me that a mirror match got into the finals. It's not the first time this happened, but my god, is it a doozy. So we have the Half-Flame Ogerpon here with the Ivy Cudgel, the Horn Leash, Follow Me, and the Spiky Shield. Half-Flame Ogerpon is pretty much the main Ogerpon variant that you want to go for here, because Grass and Fire is just an absolutely good typing to go for. You steer clear of a lot of good threats here in the metagame right now, and just because of going Terror as well, you have that +1 attack boost. It's a very aggressive form of Ogerpon, so if you like to have a very aggressive Pokemon in play there, Ogerpon is definitely something you want to go for, Half-Flame specifically. All of them have their very good traits, but definitely Half-Flame Ogerpon is the one you want to go for if you want that very offensive kind of factor in that position. We have the Ice Rider Calyrex with the Clear Amulet, this time with the Terra Fairy. Now this one caught me off guard, and I literally just played this on ladder just before we started recording here. But yeah, the Terra Fairy is quite interesting because yeah, you are still weak to steel, but there's not that many steel types that can really do the job, like especially if you've got Trick Room set up. Like you've got things like Zamazenta, but then again Zamazenta and Calyrex kind of weigh the same because Heavy Slam does more damage depending on how much you weigh to the target, so they kind of weigh relatively the same or not that far off from each other. So Heavy Slam doesn't really do that much damage. You don't see that much of Goldengo in the format right now, which I personally feel like he might have a comeback considering Terra Fairy and or going into the Ice type into the Terra Fairy. It's still like open opportunity for Goldengo. But yeah, other than that, you've got like King Gambit, but then King Gambit gets shut down because Urshifu's everywhere. You just don't have that opportunity for steel types because there's always some sort of drawback in that factor, which is quite strange. So going into Terra Fairy is very, very interesting here. And we have obviously the Glacial Lance, High Horsepower, Trick Room, and Protect, standard set for Calyrex. But weirdly enough, shifting that one Terra, it's like because you're so focused on the Terra Fire or the Terra Water on Ice Rider, seeing Terra Fairies just throws you off completely out the window. And it is absolutely insane to me how crazy just one Terra shifts the entire balance of the game. It's absolutely insane. We have the Mystic Water, Rapid Strike Urshifu going into Terra Water, obviously to boost up those Surgeon Strikes. We also have Close Combat, Taunt, and Detect. So Taunt is there to kind of get your Amoonguss taken care of if it's the mirror matchup, or just anyone there that kind of wants to threaten, you know, things like Tailwind or things like Encore. You just have the Taunt there and just kind of shuts them down more than anything else, which again is quite nice. We have the Life Orb Landorus. Nice to see Landorus making a comeback here, going into Terra Water as well to stay clear of Urshifu's, which is obviously quite nice. Earth Power, Stansted Storm, Sludge Bomb, and Protect, again just keeping you safe there. And of course the other three set is pretty much standard there. That's pretty much the main set that you see off the Landorus there, pretty much standard. We have the Amoonguss, because of course you would see Amoonguss paired with Calyrex Ice. This thing loves Trick Room. Spore, Pollen Puff, Rage Powder, Protect, standard stuff. Also Terra Fairy and the Covert Cloak to steer clear of those fake outs as well, meaning you can just again get those Rage Powders going turn 1, get those Pollen Puffs going turn 1. Even with the Spores, you've got all that stuff going turn 1, so it's absolutely a fantastic thing to deal with there. Covert Cloak is fantastic for Amoonguss. If it's not Rocky Helmet or it's not Citrus Berry, Covert Cloak is definitely a great thing to go for here. And then finally is Booster Energy Roaring Moon. Now this is really, really interesting. I was not expecting Roaring Moon to actually win a tournament. This is quite insane to me. Roaring Moon is a pretty good past Paradox Pokemon, but it's not been the best. Because of it being Dragon and Dark type, it kind of gets overshadowed by Fluttermane because this thing just absolutely falls over to Fluttermane. But to see this thing actually rise up is quite insane. With the booster energy, you obviously get that speed boost, meaning that you can get things like Tailwind going a lot faster. You have the acrobatics as well because you've just consumed your booster energy, and you also have the knockoff for a stab damage as well. You have the Terra Flying to steer clear of fighting types, which is obviously great, and also boosting off that acrobatics as well. It's a really, really nice, you know, solid Pokemon to go for it. It's just been overshadowed because just a lot other Pokemon just really hit this thing pretty damn hard. And looking at its stats as well, especially with that defense, it's not great. So it's got really bad physical defense, meaning things like Urshifu can just do a close combat and just take this thing out in one go. And it's times 4 weak to Fairy onto things like a Fluttermane that can just have, that has really high special attack stat and has really good Fairy type moves in Dazzling Gleam, in Moonblast. This thing just absolutely keels over. So to see this thing come up at number 1 and number 2 is absolutely insane to me. So kudos to Roaring Moon. I think Roaring Moon's going to get a little bit of an upsurgence here. I think everyone's kind of sleeping on it now. I think because Fluttermane's not being used as much anymore, everyone's kind of got the download on Fluttermane now. I think Roaring Moon's got a little bit more time to shine now. So it's kind of nice. It's going to be nice to see exactly what we can pull off here. But this has been good. It's a really cool team. It's a really very solid team. So you've got Trick Room if you want it. You've got Tailwind if you want it. Very, very solid team, and very, very much respects to both Shi Liang and Justin Tang as well. These guys have been absolutely amazing, and what a game. What an absolute game these guys played. Now we get to move on to my favorite part of the video, the top 8 and top 12 Pokemon of the weekend. And we're going to start off with the restricted tier, where in day 1, Miraidon was sitting at the top at 17%, which obviously makes sense. Miraidon won the last regional that's happened, and everyone's just on the Miraidon train to see how exactly that goes. Of course, you have the Ice Rider following very, very shortly behind at 16% in comparison to Miraidon's 17%. You have Zamazenta as well, sneaking back there at 14% on the dot, by the way. Kudos to Zamazenta for sticking absolutely clean on that. You have the Shadow Rider as well in 4th with the 11.67%. Then Kyogre falling shortly behind at 10. Then you've got Terrapagos at 8.5, Koraidon at 6, and Groudon as well at 5.67. So again, not really much of a change from any restricted that we've seen. Again, like I said in the last video as well, when we talked about the last regionals, this is pretty much going to be the main 8 Pokemon that you see. I don't really see anybody else having that kind of factor in there. You might see Lunala somewhere, you might see Eternatus somewhere, but am I going to say they're going to pop up in top 8 in the bracket? Probably not. I don't really see it. Me personally, I don't see anyone else taking the slots here. These 8 are probably going to be the ones that are going to get shuffled around. And like they were kind of saying in the tournament as well, it's going to be a shuffle around. So sometimes you might see one Pokemon hitting the top spot, another Pokemon hits it the regional after, another Pokemon's going to hit it after that, and then another one after that, and then it might circle back into the first one. So it's going to be quite the fiasco here of just who's going to be staying at the top spot and who's going to be the most consistent. But of course, everyone's going to learn how to defeat one legendary, and then they're going to go into the next legendary to figure out how to beat that one and how to beat that one until we realize that the way to beat the recent dominant restricted is going to be a restricted that we've already got the download over. So it's going to be a very, very weird system here throughout Regulation G. So yeah, it's going to be quite the interesting matchups for the next few weeks or months to see how exactly this goes. But going into a day 2, and things drastically changed. Ice Rider Calyrex is hitting the top spot at 24.71%. Ice Rider Calyrex is almost a quarter of usage in day 2, which is absolutely insane. Kyogre is second with just over half of the percentage that Ice Rider has at 12.94. That is absolutely insane. Kudos to Kyogre for coming up a lot more. Maybe we might see more stuff with Kyogre as well, considering that, yeah, it does actually counter Ice Rider Calyrex's Glacial Lances, which is quite huge. Zamazenta is still sticking firm at 3rd. I love this doggo. I absolutely love Zamazenta here. Terrapagos coming up a bit more. Shadow Rider and Miraidon both going down because, again, everyone's got the kind of download on Shadow Rider Calyrex. Everyone's starting to figure out how to get rid of Miraidon because, obviously, Miraidon won Worlds last year and the first regional of Regulation G when it came back. So, of course, all eyes are on Miraidon to kind of target it. The biggest target on its back right now. And, of course, Koraidon and Groudon just sitting hand in hand, again, at the bottom 2 slots. So again, it's just that whole factor of who's doing the most consistent thing throughout that month and throughout that week. So right now it's Ice Rider Calyrex. So of course the community is going to learn how to get rid of Ice Rider Calyrex. We've obviously known that Ice Rider Calyrex is really good in Trick Room. We're starting to see Ice Rider Calyrex pull out of Trick Room a bit more and just being this really slow juggernaut outside of Trick Room, which has been quite interesting. But of course, everyone's going to start learning how to get rid of it. Everyone's going to start learning how to cope with it, which is obviously quite nice. And then, of course, we've got things like Kyogre and Zamazenta being the most consistent, in my opinion, in terms of restricted. So it's going to be quite nice. It's going to be quite nice to see, of course, as we are heading into EUIC, which is going to be absolutely insane. And, of course, we can't skip out on our top 12 non-restricted Pokemon as well. Of course, Urshifu, Incineroar, and Rillaboom hitting the top spots here. The big 3 just absolutely chilling in their spots. You know how they do it. They're just chilling. They're fine. They're all good. Urshifu being there at 46%. Rillaboom being at 31 and Incineroar being at 32. I don't know why I swapped them over. I always go for Rillaboom first. I love Rillaboom. I just love Rillaboom. Fluttermane following shortly behind at 28%. And then Raging Bolt at 27% on the dot as well, which is quite nice. And of course, just regular Pokemon that we've seen as well throughout the format. Amoonguss for Farigiraf. Then we've got Xianpao, which is quite nice. It always likes to get paired up with Urshifu quite nicely. So of course, you would probably see that hand in hand. And of course, with the Zamazenta as well in the restricted case. You've got obviously the half-flame Ogerpon. Then we've got Whimsy. Absolutely love Whimsy. And then of course the Iron Hands and the Chi-Yu falling behind at 11 and 12th place. Chi-Yu I thought was going to have more of an appearance. I just initially thought that Chi-Yu would have a little bit more of an appearance. I think Chi-Yu has a very, very big slot in this metagame. And I think Chi-Yu can actually run around with the game pretty nicely if it fits its team very, very well. So we're going to see how exactly that plays out with Chi-Yu. I'm very excited to see how that plays out. But obviously time can tell. In my opinion, I think Chi-Yu is going to do absolutely amazing. I think Chi-Yu is going to be absolutely great. But again, that's just down to me. The community might do things differently. Chiyu might not be that slot because again, you've got Pokemon like Incineroar, which has exactly the same typing and can do a lot more stuff. It can be offensive, it can be supportive, it can just be an absolute brute force in nature, it can be disruptive. It's just got everything for it. Chiyu in the other case is just completely for offense, and that's about it. And then for the day 2, again, a lot of things have changed. Urshifu still staying at the top spot at the number 1. Amoonguss skyrocket into 2nd place at 40%. Then Raging Bolt shortly after that as well. The other 2 of the big 3 just decided to skyrocket down to 4th and 6th, with Incineroar being at 32% and Rillaboom being at 24%. I don't really understand, but I guess just because Urshifu has more synergy with other teams, that it just makes more sense that way. With Incineroar, it's very hard to pick. Like, if you want like a very slow-paced game, Incineroar is very nice for that. If you want terrain disruption, Rillaboom is very nice for that. So I guess just Urshifu just fits a lot more teams easier. So that's why Urshifu obviously has a lot more usage, especially in the day 2. Ogerpon went up a little bit. I think Chienpan went exactly where he is. Landorus is popped up all of a sudden in day 2 with 21%. I think just with that Life Orb Sheer Force combination, it's just an absolute brute force. So you just have this insane Pokemon that can just do insane amount of damage. And with that ground typing as well, with the Sandsear Storm and the Earth Power, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to deal with. Like, this thing hits so hard. Even on Pokemon that resist it, this thing hits really, really hard. Chiyu skyrocketed up a little bit to 20% on day 2. And then we have the Cornerstone Ogerpon, which has popped up and made an appearance now. And it is tied up with Whimsy in last place, joint at 14.12%, respectively. It is very, very insane to see Cornerstone popping up now as well. But again, these 2 are probably the most popular Pokemon. Obviously, Hearthflame has not moved as the dominant Ogerpon variant. But yeah, only time can tell. The next up that we have is EUIC, and I'm very excited for this because I am also attending this one. This is actually going to be the first regionals/internationals that I'm going to cover on this channel that I am actually going to attend. So this time, we're not only going to be talking about the top 8, but we're going to be talking about my own personal team as well. So yeah, this is going to be quite fun. I'm very looking forward to this. This EUIC is going to be absolutely huge, and this is going to be a doozy. Obviously, any restricted can pop up in the top spot. We don't really know who it could be. Obviously, time can tell. We've just literally come off a day, not even a full 24 hours after this regional, so it goes down to everyone to try and figure out how exactly we can play this around. But yes, that is all the time we have for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like down below. It helps me out a ton and lets me figure out what you guys like to see from this channel as well. Also, let me know in the comments below what your favorite team was in this regional, and let me know what your favorite restricted Pokemon is so far in Regulation G, and how excited you are for this next event at EUIC, and if you are even attending. So let me know in the comments below, and yeah, enjoy yourselves, guys, and I will see you very, very soon. Okay, bye.